Right now is an interesting time. I think this is actually the best time of the year to buy sports cards during the holidays because I have a good sum of cards. What is the best way to sell them? I'm going to assume here that you have a bunch of cards from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And for the longest time, I used to say to people, the cards are worthless, which they are, but I do actually have a solution for you. So, welcome to episode number 39 of Beyond the Game. Hi, my name is Eric Michael. I've sold millions of dollars in sports cards, and I do these podcast Q&A things just to help you make a little bit more money with sports cards and introduce people to the idea of making money with sports cards. And I have some great questions to answer here. A bunch of questions came in over the holidays, and happy holidays to you, whether it's Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, or by the time you're watching this, it'll probably be over with the New Year's, so hopefully you'll have an amazing 2025. Let's get into it. So right now is an interesting time. I think this is actually the best time of the year to buy sports cards during the holidays because everything is so cheap and the market dips down. It's when I do a lot of buying. This year I didn't do as much as I would have liked because I've been busy with Major League profits, but in previous years, this was a huge money-making time for me because sports cards dips down during the holidays because people are spending their money on, Christmas and holidays and Hanukkah and all that good stuff. But let's get into it. So first question. Kendall says, I have quite a few MLB cards that can go for some decent money and MLB material cards as well. What's the minimum amount I need to get started? Kendall, I don't really know what you're asking. What I would say to you is if you're asking me what's the minimum amount you need to start buying and selling sports cards, and if you need to sell those cards to get that money, I probably would not start buying and selling sports cards at all. Like if you only have, it sounds like to me you only have a few $100s laying around. If that's the case, you need a better job and you need to stop spending so much money and you need to save money. So if you're asking me how much money to get started with sports cards and you need to sell those cards to have the money, I probably wouldn't do it, to be honest. I would only start buying and selling sports cards unless you have, if you're looking to turn this into an income, like an extra few $1,000s laying around comfortably. If you don't and you're on your last $100, it's not the time to start a business. If you have $100 and that's it, you have other problems in your life and you need to fix those. So my answer to you is I wouldn't start. Kendall. Peter says, I have a good sum of cards. What is the best way to sell them? So the best way to sell them, so Peter, if you're asking me that, I'm going to assume here that you have a bunch of cards from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And for the longest time, I used to say to people, the cards are worthless, which they are, but I do actually have a solution for you. So if you look at my screen here, we have cards from the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, right? And the problem with these cards is they are worthless, right? Because they were massively overproduced. And everybody that comes to me, about 99% of people who say, I have these cards, how do I sell them? They're cards from this era. And these cards were overproduced. The market ended up crashing in the 90s because of it. And that's why now you see all sorts of diversification with cards. You see all these different colors and patches and autographs and not autographs. It's because these companies got smart and they realized, wait a second. For example, this card of Ken Griffey Jr. Where are you? Where's his rookie card? The main one, this one. This card that you're looking at was printed a bajillion times, right? And that's why if you ever have old people say, how can a Ken Griffey Jr. card sell for less than, a card of Jackson Churio, for example? I don't know if you guys saw this, but Jackson, this is actually pretty cool. Jackson Churio card. This should pop up on Google. Where are you? This one right here. Oh, I don't think I have Instagram on this. This one. So this Topps MLB debut card sold for $100,000, and I'll get older people that'll say to me all the time, I don't get it. How could this card sell for $100,000 and this card Ken Griffey Jr. only sell for $20, $50, $100? This one's massively overproduced, and this one is a one of one, and as you see there, that is actually so what the MLB started doing, which is super cool, is they start every rookie, his first game, they wear that patch that you see, that MLB debut patch, and it goes into a card. So you can imagine it's just very, very desirable. It's like people love original stuff, right? That's why rookie cards sell for so much money, because these cards were signed and these cards were made before this player ever got great. But this like Topps MLB debut card that you're looking at is like a rookie card. It's like the first game of the guy's rookie season, and there's only one of them, right? Because they only wear that patch one time for their first game, which I think is super cool. But anyways, to answer your question, what was it, Peter? So if you have these cards, this is what I would do. So step number one, I would list on eBay. Not only would I list on eBay, but I would categorize the cards into like certain sections. So like I would, and once again, this is a lot of effort. I'm assuming this is probably going to be worth it to you. So let's say you have a bunch of cards, like pretend this is a lot of cards. These are all Mets cards, and like this is another lot of cards, and like this is all like Yankee cards, right? And categorize the cards and make an eBay listing for like you could call it 1970s, 80s, 90s NY Mets collection, something like this. And you'll get a Mets collector that'll give you anywhere, depending on the types of cards you have there, anywhere between like $20 to like $100 on the high end. And I would list these cards on eBay, and you could categorize them into stars or by teams or by years, and you'll get true collectors that will want to give you money for it. Not a lot, and honestly, it's a lot of effort for not a lot of money, to be frank with you. But if you really, really wanted to sell your junk, crappy cards from the 70s, 80s, and 90s that are probably not worth much, that would be the best way to do it. But that's the best I got for you, Peter. All right. Chet says, let's see, what does Chet say? I sent you an email last week about a question. Should I keep Bowman Baseball first base cards, not autographs? I have a ton since the past 4 years, and I don't know if I should throw them out. They're taking up a lot of space. This is just such a broad question that's like just not even answerable. You got to give me a little bit more context than this. Should I keep my cards? That's like saying, should I keep my job? I don't know. Like, do you like it? But I'm assuming the cards you have, if you have a bunch of cards, it sounds like they're worthless. It sounds like you're probably breaking open boxes and cases. The only cards I would keep, I would just give them all away, or you could do what I just showed you here with the cards from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. But the only cards that are worth getting graded would be ones that are in good condition that you can sell for at least $50 as a PSA 10. So this is what I would be looking for. I'm assuming it sounds like these cards are more modern cards. So any stars of a card graded at 10, it's usually going to sell for like $40, $50. So your goal, if you have a bunch of cards and you're like, what the fuck should I do with them? So your goal is find cards $50 plus as a PSA 10. And you might be saying, why does it have to be $50 as a PSA 10 to send in to get graded? Well, that's because grading costs at the minimum is going to be, right now I'm speaking, about $19. So I have a rule when I'm sending cards to get graded. My objective is I want to at least 2x my money, right? So if my investment is $19, I want this card to be worth at least $50, and after fees, or I may have to discount it, I can sell it for at least $40. But if, right, I mean, I shouldn't have to say this out loud, but I have to say it all the time because people just aren't good at math for some reason, and this isn't complicated math, right? And maybe somebody could leave a comment and explain to me why people do this. Like, I get it. Like, I know not everyone's great with numbers, but people will literally send in a card for grading, right? Knowing the grading cost is $19 and a PSA 10, like their sales on eBay, of $15. Like, if it costs you $19 to get a card graded, why would you send it in for grading if at the best it's going to be worth $15? And I see people do it all the time. Like, if you ever look on eBay, there's like PSA 10s that sell for like $10, $15, and I'm like, how or why? Like, do you really not know what you're doing that much? Maybe. I don't know. I've always wondered that. And I get it, some cards are worth more than drop down in value. I do understand that. Kyle says, what would you do with an autographed PSA magazine number 12 sent by PSA that would not grade well? White frame on both front and back cover. Which platform would render the most value? I don't know what you're asking exactly, but eBay, if you're looking to sell it. Sounds like it's not worth much, though. Man, I've had better questions than these. But eBay would be the best place to sell it. I think that's what you mean. Here we go. Here's a more in-depth question. So Anthony says, hey, Eric, I'm in a position where I have enough cards, if valuable, to sell for a year without needing to reinvest, but I've stuck still buying and find myself either no time to comp or list, even hold at a whatnot show, which I only have done once so far. That's what it says, I guess. Anthony, I guess you're not the best at typing. I already have a huge following because of the cards. I either hit in breaks or buy, which with shows on the bookmarks I have when I post a show. Don't know what that means. I don't know what it is. A lot of my friends that are in the business say, I'm in my own head and I just need to hold a show and start listing. For me, it's more of a fact. I want to absolutely do it correct, meaning grading, comping, and which platform to sell. What do you think? Would love for us to chat. Well, if you're speaking as anything like you're typing, I don't know if I'd like to chat, Anthony. But man, come on, guys, put a little bit of like thought into the questions when you're typing so I could comprehend it. But Anthony, I think what you're trying to say to me is you have a bunch of cards, you've gotten from breaks, and you're not sure what you should do with it. Like, should you go to shows? So, well, Anthony, so you know, like I know you said at the end there, you're looking to do it correctly. If you're looking to do it correctly, breaking is not the way to do it. Because breaking open packs and cards, yeah, it's fun, but it's a losing game. You're just going to lose money in the long run, so keep that in mind. But what I would do, so you have so what you're looking at on my iPad screen right now is exactly what you should do. Any cards that are worth at least $50 as a PSA 10, you should send in for grading, assuming the condition is good, okay? Assuming, like, you know, the 4 pieces of criteria, you know, the corners and the edges and the centering and the surface. If these check out, then I would send it in for grading as long as it sells for $50 is a PSA 10 and a PSA 9 sells for at least, you know, around what the grading cost is, which is $19. Because, you know, there's no point of sending a card in for grading if you're going to lose money big 10s, right? That's pretty obvious. And the way to do that, just I guess I take it for granted that I know how to do this. But so, like, if you're on eBay, so this is the eBay app, and let's say you have this is just the first one that comes to mind. Let's say you have a 2022 Bowman Chrome Jackson Churio, and you're like, okay, should I send this card in for grading? If you click filter there on the top right, and you go to show more, and you go to sold items, you could find, like, I don't know, you could type in PSA 10 to see what this card sells for as a PSA 10. And let's say I'm looking for his, like, Bowman Chrome base, like this card, for example. Like, this card, although it's amazing, it's not worth it to send in for grading to a PSA 10. Like, this guy who sold this card, you know, probably netted like $24, which is not worth it after sending a card in and spending $19 to get it graded. I mean, at a certain point, I believe this card is worth way more, so that's why there's a bunch of PSA 10s of this card. But, so that's what I would do to determine if you should send in a card for grading or not. And right, you want to look at the corners and the edges and the corners, the edges, the centering, the surface to determine that. If your cards are beat up and they're not going to 10, don't send it in. So I think that answers your question, Anthony. But the way to do it correctly, like I think you want to do sports cards correctly. Like there's multiple different ways to make money. But the easiest one, right, is just simply buy, grade, sell. That's like the simplest 3-step way to make money. And the hardest part is this one, knowing what to buy. Because knowing what to buy, right, you have to be buying it at the right time. You have to be buying cards that are in good condition. And then also, you have to be buying the right types of cards or liquid types of cards. And also, you have to be following, the 2x rule that I call it. So you're at least doubling your money when you get a 10. So buying is the hardest part. Selling is honestly easier. Like once you do this stuff correctly, the selling just is natural because if you're buying the right cards at the right time, that means you're selling the right cards at the right time. And it's just these things sell like hotcakes. But that's the way to do sports cards correctly, the easiest way to get into it, make a few $1,000s per month. There's another way I don't know, this isn't like a term. I just kind of made it up. I call it short-term investing. And basically what that is buy graded cards in off-season, hold probably 2 to 3 months, roughly, and then sell during peak right before season. So this strategy requires much more money than this one. So that's why I would do that top one first. But those are like the 2 basic ways to make money in sports cards. This is like get to a quick, 2 to 3K a month profit. This is like this one down here, this is like how to scale. This is like scaling and like spending like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 grand a month. But this one has the blue one, the short-term investing has lower profit margins because you're buying cards already graded. Like the downside with the red one up here, the buying, grading, selling, is it's easier, it's quicker, it's faster, but it's not as scalable, right? There's only so many cards out there you could buy raw that are in good condition to get graded. So people cap out. Like the most I've seen people consistently make is like 10K a month, which is a lot of money, but that's like the top. Like the average in our program is like $2,000 a month profit from this stuff. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Let's see what else we got here. Tony says, I have a baseball card collection and sports memorabilia. How do I get an estimate on how much my collection is worth? So you can send it to me. I'll tell you what it's worth. You can go to your local card shop. Probably going to lowball you and tell you it's worth less so they can make an offer and make money, to be honest. So I don't know if I would do that. What I do, so I just started. Here, let me give you a little. This is what I do. This is how I evaluate what lots are worth. So Tony, I don't know how much you follow what we do here, and like I don't know how much you've been following our content, but we just recently launched a strategy that's actually been crushing it, running Facebook ads to buy cards. Okay, so check this out. All right, so step 1. Let me just explain to you like what's going on, so everything I'm about to say will make sense. So right, step 1, we launch a Facebook ad, and this Facebook ad is like a picture, and it says something like, "Woo, we're buying cards, mostly vintage cards." Step 2, people click on this ad. People click on ad, and then fill out a form. Step number 3, form gets sent to me or us, the students, and then we evaluate it. And this strategy, most of the people coming in and filling out this form and clicking this ad over here, most of these people have lots of cards. When I say lots, I mean like, bulk lots of like, vintage cards. And the way I evaluate how much something is worth, because, there's so many cards. People have like thousands of cards. Like, what the hell should I pay, right? So what we do is we ask them, hey, send us any cards you think are valuable. So let's say, for example, someone has a lot of, I don't know, call it, let's say someone has 1,000 cards. And someone has 1,000 cards, right? And these are cards from all over the place, right? The 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. So it's like, what the fuck? Like, I can't evaluate all those cards. So we then ask them, send us, pictures of the most valuable cards. So let's say this person sends, pictures of like a bunch of different cards. Like, let's say, because usually out of all these cards, out of like thousands of cards, there's only going to be like 5 or 10 or 15 that are actually worth something. Let's say this person sends all these cards, these 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's say this. I then ask this person, send me what you have is valuable, and he sends me these 9 cards. I'm assuming these are the most 9 valuable cards in the collection. I then evaluate, okay, what would these 9 cards be worth graded, right? And that's how I make an offer on the lot. So of all these cards, it comes out to these cards are worth like, I don't know, $3,000. Then I assume the lot is worth about $3,000, and the extra 800, 900 cards are probably junk, and it's probably worth an extra few $100s. Because going back to like this up here, like the reason that if you have a bunch of cards from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, they're worthless, and like this is the best way to get rid of them, just categorizing them by team or player, because they're just not worth that much money. But that's how I evaluate what a lot of cards are worth. So take anything out that you think is worth over like $20 and price it, pretend you sent it in for grading, see what it would be worth, and that would be the value of the lot. So hopefully that makes sense, but that's what I do. Well, I don't offer the full value. I do this, then I offer about half, to be honest with you. But that's how I get to the value of the lot, like a safe value. Because like I know if all these cards graded would be about $3,000, I know I want to be into it for about $2,000, $1,500, and anything extra I get after that, if I get lucky, maybe there's some, maybe there's some sort of value in these 1,000 cards that he didn't send me pictures of. But yeah, but in your case, be careful and go through all the cards that you have, because you don't want to miss something. But I would not go to a card shop because they're probably going to lowball you. I'm assuming. Maybe not. Jesse says, new question. Is the lowest level of market movers good enough to see card prices and trends of a price over time? Yeah, I believe so, unless I'm totally wrong. But yeah, if you don't know what market movers is, that would be this app where like you could see, like, I don't know, this is the first thing that pops up. You could see like trends and prices of cards. You can see Mr. Jaden Daniels, even though he won me a lot of money yesterday, his cards are going down because they just recently came out and whoop, they shoot down. That's just kind of how it goes. But yeah, the lowest level should, unless I could be totally wrong here. But I believe so. And then he also says, question number 2 from Jesse. Sometimes the light from a picture makes an edge or a corner look off color, especially on Pokemon cards. Can you show your criteria for what you would accept from a glare in a picture on a card edge or a corner? Thanks. So, okay, well, that's, I guess, sort of an in-depth question. So, okay, so let's try to do this as best as we could, right? So, grading, right? We have 4 pieces of criteria. We have corners, then we have edges, and then we have centering, and we have surface. Yay. And so just in order of importance, when you're sending a card to PSA, this would be number 1, this would be number 2, This would be number 3. This would be number 4. Now, they're all important. You know, if the edges are fucked up on a card, it doesn't matter what the rest looks like. It's not going to grade well. But this is what PSA cares about the most, in my experience, from sending in a lot of cards to them. So, if you have a picture with a glare in it, just ask the seller to send you a better picture. Because usually, like, what people will do, I don't know if I'm going to be able to find this, but let's try. Let's say if we just search, like, I don't know, Bowman Chrome. And let's try to find some stuff here. So a lot of times what sellers will do is, okay, like this. Like this is just a random ass card. But what a lot of times what sellers will do is they'll take like shady pictures of cards, like something like this that's has a weird angle or something, to hide a flaw. And then what they'll say is in the description, wherever that is, I don't know where the description is on it. I think it's here. So in the description down here, they'll say, look at the card yourself. Any flaws, it's not my responsibility. Take a good look at the card. But they'll hide it with a picture like this. Like they'll take a picture like this from like the top to the bottom to hide that the card's not centered. Or they'll like kind of like angle the card a little bit this way to hide a damaged corner. Or they'll purposely take a picture of the card with a little bit of light shining down on it to hide like a glare by a corner that's messed up. So just ask for better pictures. That's what I would do. There is no criteria for what I would accept from a glare on a picture of a card. If it has a glare, I'm asking for another picture because I'm sketched out. So, I mean, you're buying something, right? You deserve to know what the damn thing actually looks like. But that's what I would do, Jesse. I wouldn't buy a card that has a glare in it if I can't properly see what it looks like. So, cool. So those are all the sports card questions. And what's interesting is, so I'll do a little bit of research with you guys here. Might as well, right? So we're getting towards the end of the football season. Amazing time to buy. You know who I'm kind of high on? This is going to sound terrible. I think Bryce Young is an interesting buy. All right. Let me share with you my rationale before going into it. So, like, right, I think he's played. So the question with Bryce Young, I'm asking myself, is like, are the Panthers going to start him next year? I think they will. Right? I think he showed enough potential. And just look at this drop off, like, yep. And this card came up a little bit, and this card will dip down like here in the offseason, give it another like few weeks. And this is just an indicator of his market. You don't have to buy this exact card, but I think it's a good buy because like the season will probably start next year. He'll probably suck, but the Panthers will probably pick up some pieces. And it's so, like, if it drops back down to here, it'll be so low, it can't really go down. And if he's going to start next year, right, they'll probably draft someone, they'll trade for a good receiver. I think some excitement and hype will build around him. So I think Bryce Young is a solid buy. And the fact that I'm saying that now, if you asked me that 2 months ago and you said, Eric, in 2 months from now, you'll be saying Bryce Young's a solid buy, I wouldn't believe it, but I think he is. Not yet, though. I want to wait for this to hopefully, like, I'm hoping he doesn't end the season that strong, just strong enough so people, just strong enough so the Panthers keep him, but not strong enough so this price goes up. But I want to see this dip back down to here to like $70, $80, and then just go in. Like, I wonder. Does he have it? I don't think he doesn't have an autograph. I wonder, like, let me think of one of his higher end cards that's more common. Like, I wonder, Bryce Young, I'm curious now. I think he's a fascinating buy. Bryce Young, XRC, PSA 10. Like, okay, this is a little bit of a higher end card. So, this card just sold for $960, sold in August for $2,500. Like, this is the type of stuff I would buy. Yeah, it dipped down less than half. XRC, PSA 10. Come on. If he's going to start next year, you're going to sit here and tell me this isn't a good buy? Look at this. $100 for this card? This is no financial advice here, but I think this is pretty solid. XRC Gold, that's super solid. Does Bryce Young have contenders autographs? Let me see something here. I'm doing live research with you guys. He has, oh yeah, his non-autographed contenders. I wonder what his cracked ice goes for. Cracked ice. Does he have contenders? It's weird. He didn't sign with Panini, so he doesn't really have a contenders autograph. So his Prism is really his best cards, and those select XRCs are also really good. Interesting. I wonder if we go to eBay here. Sometimes what I like to do is just kind of look just to give me an idea of what to buy. I'll just type in Bryce Young, and I'll go to filters, and I'll just look at sold items. It's just spark some ideas. I'll go to highest price just to see what's sold really high of Bryce Young recently. So this sold for $2,500, that gold XRC. I was actually looking at this on eBay, but I was I know I can get it cheaper in a month or two. As bad as I want to buy, this is my type of card. This is I had two of Will Levis of this card that you're looking at right here. I made money on one, and I forgot I had the other one. It's still fucking there, and I'm gonna lose a lot of money on it. I'm a fucking idiot. This is a great buy. This true gold optic. This is a great buy. Great buy right now. This sold for what did it sell for? Bryce Young. This is gonna tell me on here. Optic gold. Is it gonna tell me? Let me see here. I don't think so. But I'd have to be on my computer. But this probably sold for $2,000. That's just that card's hard to 10. Super desirable card of him. These cards are worth triple, quadruple. I think it's solid right now. Give it another month though. That's just no financial guarantees, but interesting. That's my buy of the month. Some other things to go over real quick before I end this bad boy. Some other just random topics that I thought were interesting. So I listen to a lot of Alex Hormozi. A lot of these things I always say at the end of the podcast come from me just sitting there and listening to Alex Hormozi videos. So the death of all entrepreneurs is shiny object syndrome, and this is something I deal with, and it's kind of funny. So I'll get this amazing idea, right? That's totally off track. Our business should do this, or this would be a great idea in sports cards, and I write all my ideas down, all of them, and a month later, I'm like, why did I even think of that? You guys ever do that? You think something's a great idea. You don't have the time to do it. You write it down. You look back a few weeks later, and you're like, what the hell was I thinking? That happens all the time. But that shiny object syndrome is the death of all entrepreneurs. I don't care if you're buying and selling sports cards or whatever you do. It's terrible. So what I would do, my process for my ideas, and this is just my process in general. So I use an app called Asana. Asana is a project management tool, but I have a list on there. Anytime I get an idea or I need to do something, I have two different lists, right? There's this one's for my ideas, and this one's my to-do. So because I own a business and we have so many employees now, whenever I have something, oh shit, I need to do this. So because you can forget things so easily, I just list them. I list them right here. And my ideas, I have another list. I list them right here. So this is to do ASAP. And this is when I get time in the future and I have some downtime, I can look at my ideas. And what's funny, every single time I go back to this idea list, 99% of the ideas, I'm like, nope, that was stupid. That was stupid. That was dumb. I'm an idiot. Why'd I think that? And it's funny. It happens every single time. But when I'm jotting down the idea here, I'm like, wow, this is an amazing idea. I'm not going to think this is stupid in a month, and in a month I think it's dumb. That's number one. Number two, so along the lines of this same video I was listening to, so Alex Hormozi, so I want your guys' opinion on this. This is not sports cards related. This is more life here. So Hormozy has this thing, right? And this makes sense, right? You're a product of your environment. So you're a product of your environment, and you're truly a product of the people you surround yourself with. So, like, for example, something that's helped me a lot in life is I literally live with one of our good friends who's our CMO from my hometown and my business partner. We all live together in this giant apartment, and it's all business, all go, 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 and it really helps, push the business and, be growth-oriented and all that stuff. Now, Hormozy has this thing that you should not be friends with people that don't have the same goals and aspirations as you. So my hometown friends, for example, they all have good jobs and there's, nothing wrong with them at all. But, I have like an obsessive, overly ambitious personality. Not saying that in a cocky way. It's just kind of the truth. And according to Hormozy, he's like, you can't be friends with your old hometown people. And I still am. And I've been able to, 27 years old, grow a business to like 30-something employees. I don't know if we're at 40 now, something like that. And for example, like, sure, I don't see them as much because I live in Tampa and most of them are still in New Jersey. But let me give you an amazing thing I do every single year. So my dog, her birthday is January 3rd. And every single year in early January, I throw a birthday party for her. It's not really, it is for her. And people bring her gifts and stuff to be funny, but it's more of just an excuse to get together, everyone go out, have a fun time. And I'm flying all my friends down here on January 18th weekend to do that. And these are, friends that sure aren't like into sports cards or aren't really into entrepreneurship, except Dylan, the reason for all this is the one who got me into sports cards. He's coming down too, but the rest are not into that. But why can't you be friends with people that don't have the same goals? As long as you get along and you have similar common interests. Like, sure, like they don't have the same business interest I do and goal interest, but we all love to like gamble on sports, watch sports, go out, crack jokes, have a good time. And I think that's where Alex Hormozy misses the mark. I mean, he's also much more of a serious person than I am. Like, I love to like joke around and, it's not always, I work very hard all day, every day, 6 days a week. But when I'm not working, like Saturday nights or Sunday, I love to go out and mess around and be a goofball. But I think that's where he misses the mark. And I don't know, you guys are all probably older than me watching this, but you could still win at life and have friends that aren't at your same financial level. But like, who gives a shit? It's just about, enjoying yourself. And, I just think I think he's wrong there. And I'll leave you off with this. So this is something that hit home for me. And so if you want to feel better, blame others. If you want to get better, blame yourself. Something I've done in my life that, sure, I have a lot of flaws, more than you can imagine. You could probably see a bunch of them just by hearing me speak in front of this mic. But something that is not a flaw of mine that I think has helped me out a lot is I ruthlessly blame myself for anything that goes wrong in my life. Even if an employee fucked up, I blame myself. Right? How could the training be better? Do we need more meetings? Did I not communicate something effectively? Because blaming yourself only gets you better. Blaming others does nothing. It does nothing for you, right? I once spoke to this chick. We don't talk anymore. We only went on a few dates. And probably not dating material, but she was cool. And I would have kept hanging out with her. And she said to me, she was like, oh, like I'm not emotionally feeling myself or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And like, she's like, I can't hang out. And I was like, no worries. I apologize for, maybe not communicating enough or texting enough or whatever I did. And she's like, no, it's not you. Like, why are you blaming yourself? And to me, it's just like natural. But she was so like taken back by that. The reason we stopped talking, even though she stopped talking to me, I blame myself for everything, is because that's just kind of how I operate my daily life in my business or, whatever I'm doing, because that is the most selfish thing you could do. Blame yourself for everything so you actually get better, right? If something goes wrong and someone breaks up with you, for example, blaming them does nothing. Blaming yourself, even if it was 99% the other person's fault and only 1% your fault, you just get nothing for blaming the other person, right? I just think that's nice way to live life. Ruthlessly blame yourself for everything and look in the mirror when something goes wrong. What could I have done in this situation to be better? How could I have been a better person? What could I do different in the future so this doesn't happen again? And you'll make yourself a better person. You'll grow more, and people will also respect you much more as well, which is cool. But I'll leave it off with that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Any questions you have, feel free to leave a comment, whether you disagree, agree with me. Love to read the comments and respond to the comments in these podcasts. If you're watching this on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.